I am willful and spoiled. After marrying a big iceberg who doesn't love me, I gave birth to a little iceberg. By the time my son turned 5, I still bossed both of them around, acting like a tyrant at home. I just loved seeing how much they despised me, yet still had to serve me until one day. Bullet comments floated before my eyes. The malicious female supporting character is finally about to be written off. The female lead has transferred to the male lead's company, and today she even took Little Treasure to eat KFC. The story is getting back on track. She abused our male lead and Little Treasure all day long. Fortunately, the father and son later kicked her out to please the female lead, and in the end, the spoiled rich wife ended up paralyzed from the waist down after being hit by a car on the street. Just thinking about the male lead and his family of 3 going to the hospital to mock her, now disabled, fills me with satisfaction. I abruptly lifted my leg. My husband, who was helping me wash my feet, and my son, who was squatting beside my feet, massaging my legs, were splashed with water all over their faces. The brows of the 2 icy-faced men, one big and one small, instantly furrowed, and I stammered, "No need, I can do it myself." Was Shirhan frowned with his tiny brow, his little head unable to understand why I kept changing my mind. "Mom, is the water too hot?" I awkwardly put my feet back into the basin. "No, I'm done washing. You don't need to massage them anymore. Please stand up first." I swallowed hard and glanced at my husband, who was also kneeling on one knee. You get up too compared to Herhan was C is much more composed, as if accustomed to my unpredictable nature. He calmly stood up to fetch a towel. The more humiliated the male lead and the Little Treasure were when they knelt earlier, the more satisfying it will be when they later put the female antagonist in her place, having the young master massage her legs and the billionaire CEO wash and wipe her feet. She really must be tired of living. I silently watched the scrolling subtitles. So it turns out I'm the vicious supporting female character, and my husband and son are the male lead and young male lead of this world. Not only do I have to make way for the female lead, but even Hush Shirhan was arranged for me to give birth to first, because the author was afraid the female lead would suffer from childbirth pain. Finally, the beautiful heroine appears to inherit my husband and son, redeeming them and showing them that there is such a kind woman besides me. The family of 3 lives happily ever after. I clench my fist. As for Hoth, it's understandable since our marriage was arranged and there was no emotional foundation. But H. Sheeran, I looked at the little boy standing obediently to the side. Although he has a face that looks exactly like his father's, he is, after all, my own son who came from my womb. I don't want to just hand him over to someone else as a gift. So I cleared my throat softly and asked him, "Sweetie, if Mom and Dad get divorced, who would you want to live with?" Shirhan was taken aback for a moment. Then his little brows furrowed again. He imitated his father's manner and spoke coldly. "Mom, don't make such meaningless assumptions." I was taken aback by his words and looked up, meeting cold, amber eyes. They seemed like a still, lifeless pool of water. He stepped forward, bent down on one knee, and lifted my foot from the basin. "Don't say such things in front of the child." Shirhan nodded, then turned and walked toward the door like a little adult. "I'm going back to sleep." The barrage of comments was filled with mockery. What is this supporting female character thinking? The father and son look exactly alike. So, of course, their level of annoyance with her is the same. Can still pretend a little. But Shirao Bao practically has his disdain written all over his face. LOL. Forget about her not wanting to divorce. Even if she really did, Little Treasure wouldn't follow her anyway. What would he do with her? Serve her like a dog. Her purpose in existing is to stir up trouble, get abandoned, and then end up with a broken leg and a miserable death. To achieve that satisfying revenge novel effect, my heart gave a violent thump, and without another word, I snatched the towel from Hasai's hand. "I'll do it myself." We also slightly furrowed his brow, but ultimately said nothing. Lying in bed, I tried to digest the information conveyed by the barrage. I lifted my nightgown and looked at my long, fair legs, so long and so well proportioned. I couldn't accept losing them in the future. After much contemplation, I decided to first change my oppressive behavior toward my husband and son. As the barrage comments suggested, I truly cannot control the meeting of the male and female leads. Even if I had fired the female lead, they would still meet at the next intersection. But if my son sees me as a gentle mother, perhaps when I divorce, he will be willing to choose me. Thinking this, I looked up and saw Huxley just stepping out of the bathroom. A towel was wrapped around his waist, and droplets of water that hadn't been dried yet slowly trickled down the skin on his chest. When he saw me lying on the bed with my robe lifted, exposing both legs, his motion of drying his hair paused, and his pupils instantly darkened. I was still racking my brains over how to be a thoughtful and caring mother. Looking up, I saw that Hose had already taken out the battle robe I had bought for him from the wardrobe. In his left hand, he held the black and white lace, and in his right hand, he grasped the purple lace. The tips of his ears were slightly red, and he looked at me with a blank expression, as if seeking my opinion. The barrage on the screen was screaming wildly. Why is the screen black? Is there something my esteemed VIP can't see? I won't scold you anymore. Supporting female character. Just turn on the camera and let everyone appreciate your husband's big chest muscles. Ji Chen Xiao. Share your husband with everyone to build good relationships. Hurry up and turn on the camera so we can see two among a pile of big yellow duck heads. A few original fans were mixed in. I can't accept it, even knowing how Shurao Bao came to be. I still feel the male lead was forced. Can't the female supporting character see that her husband always has a cold expression when he's with her? I think so. 2. The male lead clearly refused the first time. Yet, she keeps forcing him to wear it just to satisfy her own weird fetish. It's disgusting. It's fine. Just think about how the legs currently wrapped around the male lead will soon be gone. And I won't be so angry anymore. I took a deep breath, looked at Hesai, who was about to change clothes, and pulled the blanket over to cover my legs. I am not in the mood today. Let's go to bed early. After saying this, the air in the entire room seemed to freeze. The barrage erupted with excitement. Oh, it's dawn. The male lead doesn't look too happy. What did the female supporting character do again? What else could it be? She tried to force someone to wear clothes and got rejected. Look at how white the male lead's knuckles are from gripping that lace outfit. He's really enduring humiliation. I also noticed that Hai's expression was unusually grim, especially when the words, "not interested," came out. His face visibly darkened by more than 2 shades in the past. Wasai was indeed reluctant to change clothes every time, and I had to coax and persuade him. Now seeing the rolling barrage, I didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Got it. Was Sai's voice like himself as cool and restrained? He casually tossed his clothes into the wardrobe, pulled back the covers, and climbed into bed. I pinched my own leg under the blanket and let out a long sigh of relief. Thank goodness it's still intact. Love you, old leg. See you tomorrow. The next day, I woke up to bright daylight. As soon as I stepped out of my room, I saw the 2 of them, one big, one small, sitting in the living room just as I sat down. Wasai got up and went to the kitchen to fetch some bread for me. Was sure Han huffed and puffed as he carried the milk over to me, stepping onto a stool to pour it for me. The barrage is complaining again. The supporting female character really didn't die unjustly, with so many nannies at home. She insisted on having the male lead and little treasure serve her. She's just looking for trouble. Exactly. Talking about letting little treasure develop good service habits, so he won't be looked down upon when he marries into his wife's family. Does the little crown prince need to marry into someone else's family? And she even glorifies it by saying she's letting the male lead set a good example for their son. I think she's just deliberately tormenting them to satisfy her need for control. My brow twitched fiercely as I reached out and grabbed Sharon's little arm. Was Shirin looked up at me in confusion. This time I added 1 1/2 spoonfuls of sugar. I took the milk, poured it into a cup myself, and gulped down 2 mouthfuls. You don't need to worry about such small things. Mom can handle them herself. You should hurry up and eat. Was Shirhan looked at me, seemingly unable to understand why I had become so strange, but he still turned around and sat back in his own seat. Was he also came out of the kitchen looking at me with some difficulty. The salad dressing is gone. I've already asked Aunt Wong to buy some. I took the sandwich in my hand. It's fine. I can eat it without salad dressing. The air fell silent, and even the nanny looked at me with some surprise. Hose also looked at his empty palm, his frown deepening. Mom, you actually didn't throw the sandwich in Dad's face. The sun blinked. I took a deep breath. Was I really that terrible before? The barrage has already answered for me. Why did the supporting female character suddenly change her temperament? Wasn't she the one with the worst morning temper? Last time when there was no salad dressing, she threw a tantrum and tossed the sandwich out. Look at how scared our little treasure is. Even his cool, aloof expression can't hold up. Thinking his mom is possessed by a ghost. I took a bite of the sandwich, feeling too guilty to look at the barrage again. A small piece of green vegetable slipped out and landed straight on my thigh. Seeing the stain on my home clothes, I instinctively frowned slightly. A tissue gently covered my leg, followed by the appearance of a hand with distinct knuckles in my field of vision. Wasai's hand was large, almost covering my thigh. My pupils suddenly contracted sharply, as if I saw my beautiful leg turning invisible and transparent, then sprouting wings to say goodbye to me with quick reflexes. I shook off the green vegetable, then looked up and met Hai's cool, clear eyes. I can handle such small matters myself. I forced a smile, then turned to my son and said, You don't need to massage my legs or pour milk for me anymore. Mom can do it herself. Was Shirhan's brows furrowed deeply, his voice icy. Mom, are you sick? I choked this kid. When I'm nice to him, he says, I'm sick. During the meal, I stayed quiet and didn't cause any fuss by asking anyone to get me tissues or pour milk. Shirin looked up at me several times, his little brow furrowing deeper each time. Sai's gaze seemed to drift over me, then slowly shifted away. It wasn't until Hasai left home with Hushirin that I finally collapsed heavily onto the sofa, staring at the oversized wedding photo hanging in the center. I rubbed my temples. Actually, I had a crush on Hasai even before our arranged marriage, but he was like an iceberg. Even my girlfriends had stumbled over him. I have my own pride. I can't bring myself to chase after someone, especially not such a tough iceberg to crack. Just as I was about to snuff out that tiny bit of affection for Hai in its cradle, the arranged marriage between our families bound us together. I still remember the early days of our marriage, when I couldn't contain my inner excitement only to overhear his conversation with a friend outside the study. Ji Chansha is notoriously spoiled in our circle. You really drew the short straw. Wasai's voice was calm as I heard him say, It's just a matter of mutual benefit. Isn't that what arranged marriages are all about? The tiny flame that had just sprung up was completely extinguished after pretending to be well. Behaved in front of my beloved for only a few months. I gave up entirely and shamelessly revealed my truest self after all. As he said, we were just using each other for what we needed, from large appliances and furniture to small items like carpets. I insisted on decorating everything in the house according to my own preferences. Horse never interfered, only this huge wedding photo. When I wanted to place it right in the center of the living room, he slightly frowned. Putting it here doesn't match. It's very ugly. At that time, I was holding back my anger. It wasn't that he disliked the wedding photo. He clearly disliked me. However, Wasai's and different personality also gave him a good temper that didn't hold grudges. So, I intensified my efforts, starting to order him around to do this and that for me, forcing him to wear clothes he didn't like just to satisfy me. Hosey would sometimes feel dissatisfied, but the way he expressed his discontent was only by slightly furrowing his brows. Hosey looked quite handsome when he frowned. He was already handsome, as if descended from the heavens. I loved most to see him frown, as if the aloof, immortal master from a painting had come to life, and the serene image finally took on a different expression over the years because he indulged and tacitly allowed everything I did. I sometimes even developed the illusion that he loved me, but looking at that icy face, his expression toward the nanny and me was exactly the same. I knew it was just my ovulation, period again, causing such an illusion. Wang Ma, have someone take this photo down. I raised my hand and pointed at the enormous wedding photo. This was hung up by a young girl full of joy and still harboring illusions about high right after they got married 6 years later. The girl has gradually come to see clearly that in Hai's eyes, I am no different from anyone else. In truth, I can accept a loveless marriage, but the barrage of comments before my eyes has been like a surveillance feed, live streaming what the male and female leads are doing at this very moment, leaving me inexplicably annoyed. The female lead poured coffee for the male lead, and he looked up at her. I'm totally obsessed. The female lead made a mistake in the document and didn't even notice. What a little fool. The male lead will probably find her adorable when he sees it later. I close my eyes and decide to take a nap first. When I open my eyes, thunder rumbles outside the window and rain pours down heavily. The phone vibrated. It was I. Did you fall asleep in the living room? His voice was faint. I softly hummed in response, hesitating for 2 seconds before he spoke again. I have to work overtime today. If it gets too late, I won't be coming back. Have Sharon stay with you tonight. I haven't agreed yet, and the barrage of comments is scrolling rapidly before my eyes. The male lead is indeed working overtime, but our female lead is also at the company on a rainy day. Only a few NPCs, and the male and female leads are left in the office. Just thinking about it feels so ambiguous. I love watching this kind of power couple dynamic. The male lead is a cold, workaholic CEO, and the female lead is also a career-driven, strong woman. It's nothing like some clingy wife. Exactly, being scared of thunder and needing someone to accompany her if her husband isn't around. She makes her son stay with her. Is she a giant baby or what? I took a deep breath, feeling deeply hurt by being called a giant baby. No need. Just focus on your work. Before I could finish speaking, I looked up and saw Sheeran standing not far away. His face was stern, and I had no idea how much he had overheard while standing at the door. As I looked up, the camera shifted for a couple of seconds. The son said nothing, quietly took off his backpack, turned around, and went inside. Hose also spoke up. Your background wall behind you. I turned to look and realized that while I was sleeping, the wedding photo had already been taken down. Where's the photo? He asked me, and I answered truthfully. I had someone throw it out. You should focus on working overtime. I'm hanging up now. Didn't say anything either. His expressions suddenly turning gloomy, but I didn't notice at all, frowning as I stared at the empty background wall, deep in thought. Should I hang something to fill it in? It really does look too bare. After dinner, the thunder outside the window still hadn't stopped. I rubbed my sore eyes. When I opened my eyes again, a little boy stood before me, holding a storybook with a serious expression. Let's go. I'll help you fall asleep. Actually, I wasn't that afraid of thunder. I just hated the oppressive weather. So, every time it thunders, I feel terrible and find ways to toss and turn in bed, bothering Hussey. 2. The supporting female character is so annoying. A 5-year-old child still has to coax her to sleep. It's truly turning the world upside down, and she has no sense of awareness at all. The little one's face is so stiff, practically spelling out his disgust. When she can't bother her husband, who's working overtime, she starts bothering her son. Why can't the romantic storyline between the male and female leads speed up? I glanced at her Han. The little boy's face was expressionless, wooden, exactly like his father's. No need. Mom can sleep by herself. I waved my hand to refuse. Was Shirin bit her lip, looking somewhat aggrieved. But Dad told me to keep you company. I felt a bit of a headache coming on before I could say anything more. The sudden sound of a car horn came from the courtyard. I froze, and the barrage of comments also went silent. Why did the male lead come back? What about the female lead? Was Shirin holding the storybook, seemed to see a savior? He eagerly ran up, grabbed his father's hand, and earnestly tattled, "Mom won't. Let me stay with her." Horse also nodded, and even when facing his son, his expression didn't improve much. The barrage of question marks across the screen left me a bit confused as well. How did you come back? Wasi didn't answer either, looking up at the empty background wall, his eyes darkening another 2 shades. You said it was ugly, so I took it down. I felt uneasy under his gaze and explained somewhat awkwardly, but the barrage sensed something off. Does the male lead really only feel disgust towards the female supporting character as written in the original? Something feels off to me. Of course. Didn't you see how dark the male lead's face turned? He must have realized his son couldn't handle this troublemaker and rushed back specifically to keep her from bothering Xiao Bao. He does look quite impatient. Was also patted his son's head. Go to sleep. Was Shirin blinked, turning his gaze toward me. Aren't you going to massage my legs today, Mom? I hurriedly waved my hands. No need. Was Shirin pouted, her eyes seemingly glistening with tears. Then she immediately put on a stern face and asked persistently, "Not even the shoulders?" I nodded like a pounding garlic, and Shirin puffed out his cheeks before turning and heading back to his room. Was he also reached out to tug at his tie, his brows and eyes heavy with gloom? Been in a bad mood lately? I was completely bewildered. No, I've been in a pretty good mood lately. The air fell silent for 2 seconds. He took a deep breath and nodded outside the window. The rain pattered softly while bullet comments kept scrolling across the screen. The male lead just left the female lead and went home like that. How is the plot supposed to move forward? Don't worry, even if they're not together, the bond between the male and female leads won't disappear. Their red thread is stronger than steel rebar. Almost as soon as this bullet comment scrolled by, Wasai's phone on the bedside table immediately rang. Listening to the sound of water splashing in the bathroom, I picked up Wasai's phone to remind him, "Your phone is ringing." The barrage is amused. What did I say? Isn't the female lead calling now? Is the supporting female character going to answer? Can't you respect others' privacy? How disgusting. Don't worry, even if she answers, it will only make the male lead dislike her more. It's not like she hasn't answered before. In the original story, there was a time when she not only secretly answered, but also cursed at the female lead. The male lead snatched the phone away, causing her to fall flat on her face. So embarrassing at the same time was Sai's voice came from the bathroom. "Answer it for me," and asked what's going on. I tossed the phone back to its original spot as if it were a hot potato. "Come out and answer it yourself." The sound of water in the bathroom abruptly stopped shortly after also walked out, his hair still covered in foam. He first cast a heavy gaze at me, then lowered his head to pick up the nearby phone. The moment the call connected, a crisp female voice came through on the other end. "Mister, I sent you 2 proposals but didn't get a reply." In the quiet room, the woman's voice on the other end was particularly distinct. Wasi didn't speak either, his gaze fixed on my face as if waiting for something. I'm also quite embarrassed. Why did he have to speak so loudly? The barrage is amused. Is the supporting female character about to go crazy again? In the past, whenever the male lead answer a call from a woman, she would throw a tantrum once. She even scratched his face. With her spoiled temper, only the male lead could tolerate her. However, every time she acts unreasonably, his disgust for her grows, which only highlights the gentle kindness of our female lead. In the future, there will be even less sympathy for her broken leg. Now, the sight of a broken leg triggers me, and I couldn't hold back, breaking into a violent cough. Coughing, I got up and headed toward the bathroom. "I'm going cough to take a shower," Someone grabbed my arm. Hose also took a deep breath as if desperately suppressing something, then hung up the phone expressionlessly. It's after work hours. We'll talk tomorrow. Then he looked up at me. A woman called me privately. Aren't you angry? The air was quiet. Horse also stared at me for a long time before finally letting go that night. The restless tossing and turning beside me lasted until the early hours of the morning bullet. Comments kept flashing before my eyes. The male lead must be regretting it now, tormented by the thought of why he didn't stay with the female lead at the company instead of sleeping beside the supporting female character. Right. I think the supporting female character is quite pitiful. 2. Sharing a bed with someone whose heart is elsewhere and still acting like a fool. Me being described as a fool. I clench my fists. It's fine. I'll endure it as long as my son agrees to leave with me. I'll immediately file for divorce from Hosea and wish him a happy 99. I slept soundly through the night without any dreams. When I woke up the next day, Hosea had already left. Walking into the living room, I saw my son sitting at the dining table, his eyes fixed intently on me as I approached. I walked up and touched his face. With Sharon's small frame stiffened, and then the tips of his ears grew increasingly red. He subtly pulled his neck back, clearly trying to avoid me. My hand hung in midair, feeling a bit awkward. The barrage mocked me. Can't you see that others look down on her? I really wish I could live as foolishly and naively as the supporting female character for a lifetime. When will she finally understand that she's just a supporting character? Lately, her attempts to please have been so obvious, yet neither the father nor the son pays her any attention. Little Bao is just as biased as his father. He won't even let the supporting female character touch him, yet he treasures the candy the female lead gave him yesterday, hiding it under his pillow and refusing to eat it. My pupils suddenly contracted sharply compared to the idea that Hussey would eventually fall in love with someone else. This sentence hits me 100 times harder. Although I often tease my son at home, he is a piece of my own flesh and blood. I just enjoy teasing him. Seeing him put on a serious face at such a young age makes me want to mess with him. He furrows his brows like a little adult, and I find it absolutely adorable. And now the barrage tells me that no matter how hard I try, my son will still prefer another woman according to the plot. Unwilling to give up, I pulled a chair over and sat beside him. Shirhan glanced at me, then shifted his little bottom on the stool, moving to and away from me. My heart sank, but I still asked, "Sweetie, do you like?" before I could finish my sentence. The little boy lowered his head and took a sip of milk, interrupting me. "Mom, I've told you not to call me that. Just call me Herhan." His voice was soft and milky, but his words were firm and unyielding. He lowered his head. The tips of his ears flushed red. The barrage comments are hilarious. Xiao Bao is so annoyed with her. She has no self-awareness at all. Xiao held his breath until his face turned red. Yesterday, when the female lead called him Xia Bao, he responded so sweetly. But today, when the supporting female character called him baby, he coldly refused. He really takes after his dad, loyal and unwavering toward the female lead. My fingers curled and my eyes felt a bit warm, watching the boy's buttocks almost slipping off. Even though half his body was leaning out, he still kept his distance from me. Suddenly, I felt quite pointless, forcing myself to continue. I watched my husband and son gradually fall in love with some female lead, step by step, following the plot, watching myself go crazy with jealousy, only to end up like that. It's utterly meaningless. I withdrew my hand and turned back to my room. The bullet comments were still popping up. I suddenly feel a bit sorry for the female supporting character saying, "Here, don't be so naive, you upstairs who told her she's not the female lead after her Han." Left, I entered his room, looking at the candy under the pillow. It felt as if my insides were being torn apart. The plot truly is a terrifying thing. I actually found myself burning with jealousy deep down, even before meeting the so-called female lead. I already disliked her just because my son preferred her to her. I sat in my son's room for 10 minutes before finally standing up before becoming Hu Shiren's mother and Huai's wife. I must ensure that I remain the proudest daughter of the Ji family. Ji Chen Xiao, my best friend, called while I was working on travel plans. I don't want to become jealous, twisted, and hysterical, become the villainess they speak of. I should go out for a walk to clear my mind. After all, the father and son never care where I go. Help me pick up a child. My best friend seems busy. It's a bit noisy on her end. I asked in surprise, "When did you give birth?" My best friend clicked her tongue lightly. "It's my brother's. I mentioned it to you. He was drugged and tricked into having a child. He recently went abroad and left the baby with me, but I'm too busy to handle it. You said your Huron is like a little ice cube all day with hardly any friends in kindergarten. My nephew is super sweet talking. Why don't you take him home to play with H. Shiren for a couple of days?" Before I could even open my mouth to refuse, she sent me the address and hung up. My head was spinning. It seems this kindergarten is the same one H. Shiren attends. I've only been there once, and at the time, her Han coldly told me the nanny can pick him up from home, so it doesn't matter whether you come or not. Seeing his disdain, I never went again. My best friend was right. Her little nephew really is shockingly sweet-tongued. Not only did she hold my arm and call me Auntie repeatedly, but she also smiled especially sweetly. I was so charmed that I forgot everything around me, my heart melting into a soft puddle. I even started to resent Hasai in my heart if his genes weren't so dominant. My Hus Shiren would probably be soft and adorable, snuggling in my arms and acting cute. I just looked up and noticed a somewhat familiar face standing not far away. "Dad!" Xian cried out in surprise, rushed over and hugged the man, but he smiled and turned his gaze toward me. "Chen Xiao, long time no see." Looking at the man who was smiling gently and brightly, I was somewhat surprised. "Healing, didn't your sister say you went abroad?" It had been so long since we last met that I almost didn't recognize him. Compared to the cheerful little boy who used to follow my best friend and me around calling us sisters, he had clearly matured a lot. "Just got back. Since the child's father came to pick him up, I planned to leave, but Xia Yan kept shaking my arm. "Auntie, stay with me a little longer." Faced with such an adorable creature, I really couldn't bring myself to say no. Xia Yan said she wanted to eat fried chicken, so we had no choice but to find a nearby shop. I just didn't expect to run into Hiran here with a beautiful woman standing beside him. "What would you like to eat today, little treasure?" "Auntie, Yen is treating." The woman smiled beautifully, and Hu Shiran raised her hand to point at a combo meal, but suddenly froze. The chaotic and noisy fried chicken shop became unusually quiet all at once. Only the barrage in front of her eyes kept scrolling frantically. Oh my God, what's going on? The plot is all messed up. How did the supporting female character run into Shirao Bao and the female lead at this moment? Will the supporting female character go crazy and hit Little Treasure on the spot? Look how scared Little Treasure is. He's not even smiling anymore. But this battlefield of emotions is so satisfying to watch. The supporting female character and the man beside her actually look quite compatible, and the little child they're holding is so well behaved. At first glance, it almost seems like they're a family of three. Her arm was gently shaken as Shang Yan spoke sweetly. "Auntie, I can't see that panel. I need Auntie to hold me up to see it." Wisher Han stood not far away, his previously brilliant smile completely gone as he quietly watched me. His icy gaze made my eyes sting slightly. It was a sad thought since my son turned 3. I had never seen him laugh so happily again, and the next time I saw it, it was by another woman's side. Xiao looks at her like she's an enemy. Haha, kids really can't hide their emotions at all. He's shielding the female lead behind him, probably afraid the supporting female character will go crazy on them. If I were the supporting female character, I'd have some self-awareness and pretend not to see anything. Her son's expression clearly shows he doesn't want to acknowledge her. I remained silent, picked up Xian beside me, and ignored Hiran not far away. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Shirin's little face tighten even more, as if he were nervous, or perhaps angry ever since he saw me in the shop. Was sure Han hadn't smiled again. He watched Xia Yan and me quietly, his eyes chillingly cold. Through the window, I watched Hiran's small figure retreating. He let the woman lead him away by the hand. I found it somewhat laughable that my son would avoid my touch, yet so obediently let another woman lead him away. Noticing my distracted state, He Ling spent the entire meal trying to cheer me up. He has always been lively and clingy since childhood, and his son is quite similar to him in that regard gradually. He led me into reminiscing about the embarrassing moments of our childhood, which actually lifted my spirits quite a bit, just as I was about to decline Heiling's offer to drive me home after the meal. Xia Yan blinked his big eyes and clung to me, refusing to let go. I chuckled softly. He really is just like you were as a child. So clingy. He Ling's eyes flickered slightly. Chen Xiao still remembers. Getting out of Heiling's car, Xian clung to me like an octopus. In the end, Heiling had no choice but to get out of the car and forcibly peel the little one away from me, stuffing him back into the car before the matter was settled. Watching the car gradually fade into the distance, I turned and headed home. Just as I turned around, I was startled. Under the dim streetlight stood two figures, one tall and one short. Was sure Han clenched his little fists with a tense expression, while Huai remained expressionless. I had no idea how long they had been standing there. When they saw me looking over, was Shirin coldly turned his head and walked toward home. The barrage noticed something was off. Don't you think this big one and small one look like two gloomy, creeping, damp male ghosts? There's a bit of that vibe when the female supporting character turned around just now. It almost scared me to death. Both of them had gloomy faces. Why don't they hate the female supporting character? You upstairs don't get it, do you? According to the plot, the female lead should have been having a meal with the male lead and Little Treasure today. But for some reason, Little Treasure insisted on going home, which has prevented the male and female leads from having any alone time so far. No wonder the male lead is frustrated. I withdrew my gaze and stepped through the door. Was Sai's eyes fell on me. I rubbed my arms, feeling a chill. The strange atmosphere lingered until dinner when Hiran refused to eat. The nanny was at her wit's end. Madam, why don't you go and call the young master? He fears you the most and listens to whatever you say. For some reason, these words sounded rather harsh to my ears. He had already filled up on fried chicken, so why should I force him to eat more? No matter what I do, he still only feels fear and disgust toward me. Why bother getting another rebuff? Let it be, I said. Was Shirin's room fell silent for 2 seconds. Then suddenly the door was yanked open. He glared at me with reined eyes. You don't care about me. Are you going to be someone else's mom? I was stunned and hadn't said anything yet when he suddenly burst into uncontrollable sobs. Dad is a liar. He said Mom liked him best, and I thought if I acted like him, Mom would like me more. Liar, liar, big liar. It has been far too long since I last saw any other expression on Hiran's face. Not even a smile, not even a look of frustration. So when I saw him break down and cry uncontrollably, I was stunned. The barrage was stunned, too. What's wrong with Xiaobao? Why is he suddenly crying so hard? Isin sa sumazing off. Didn't Xiaoa dislike his mother, Jia Chen Xiao? Why does it seem like he actually likes her a lot? Was sure Han cried so hard he could barely catch his breath, as if pouring out all his grievances in one go. Mom hugged another kid today, and she didn't care if I didn't eat. She didn't even let me give her a massage. I've been trying so hard to act cool and aloof, but she hasn't grown to like me more at all. She likes other kids now. Was Shirin's cries echoed through the empty living room. I snapped back to reality and crouched down. Was sure Han's face was flushed red from crying. The boy's delicate face was strewn with tears, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache. What are you talking about? Mom doesn't dislike you. I reached out to wipe his tears, and H. Sherhan took the opportunity to snuggle into my arms. Mom doesn't like cold-faced people like Dad now, so she doesn't like me anymore. Right. Is it because that uncle today smiled nicely? So she likes his child who smiles nicely. Then I'll learn from that uncle. 2. Mom don't like other children. I was utterly confused. What on earth is this child talking about? Shirin hasn't obediently nestled in my arms like this for 2 or 3 years now, even though he listens to everything I say. Whenever I touch or hold him, he would frown and resist, then retreat with a cold expression, keeping his distance at this moment. The little boy is leaning softly against my chest, sobbing uncontrollably, clutching the hem of my clothes as if I might leave at any time. I won't imitate Dad anymore. I'll learn from Uncle. Mom, please don't hate me. He sobbed and sniffled. I turned my head. Although my son's words were jumbled, I still managed to catch a key piece of information. That is, my dear son doesn't actually dislike me instead. It's that Dogai who taught him all sorts of nonsense. I turned my head. Horse also frowned, his expression somewhat inexplicable, being stared at by me. He looked a bit innocent. I didn't do anything really, he explained somewhat urgently, and even the barrage could tell something was off. This damn survival instinct, the way he's so afraid his wife might misunderstand is kind of adorable. Right. You definitely didn't teach him. You just told your son that Ji China happens to like guys like you. That's all to the comment above. The more I hear this, the more it sounds like this man is bragging to his son, doesn't it? Was Shirin seemed to pour out all the grievances of these years in one go, clutching my clothes tightly and clinging to me. He kept crying until he was too tired to let go, so I had no choice but to carry him back to his room and lay him on the bed. Shirin's eyes were red and brimming with tears. Mom, I'll be good. Please don't dislike me. Okay. He pursed his lips and pulled out that piece of candy from under the pillow. This was given by Dad's subordinate. Give it to Mom so she won't start liking other kids. Looking at that piece of candy, a tender spot in my heart felt as if it had been struck hard. The barrage was stunned. No, what's going on? Didn't the female lead get along really well with Xiao Bao? And didn't Xiao Bao adore her? Why is she acting so sweet toward the supporting female character now? Xiao Bao has been watching too much TV. What's with this subordinate or underling talk? I suddenly feel sad for the female lead after spending so much time with Xia Bao. All she gets is the title of underling, But I've always wanted to say the male lead never asked the female lead to take care of the child. Every time it was the female lead who actively sought out Xiao to play with him or take him to eat KFC and such. A child would definitely find it hard to refuse such junk food. Looking at H. Shirin, whose eyes were bright and glistening from being washed by tears, I couldn't help but ask him, So, you not letting Mom touch you or call you sweetie is all about imitating Dad. Was Sherhan's little face flushed again, but this time he didn't put on a stern expression. Instead, he answered obediently, It's because whenever Mom touches me, I can't help but want to giggle foolishly. I feel so happy, so very happy. But then I wouldn't be like Dad anymore. I remain silent while Shirin stares at me nervously again. I don't want to imitate Dad anymore. Not at all. His nervous expression seems to fear that I might say I dislike him. Ifin itse absuat. Yet everything seems to have its own logic. It does seem that my son has been imitating Hasai's behavior all along. I just never thought of it that way. I thought he was just like his father, naturally cold and expressionless, recalling the barrage comments, saying that Hasai and the female lead's connection was stronger than reinforced steel. I hesitated for a moment before tentatively speaking up. Sweetie, if Mom and Dad. I was still weighing my words when Herhan sat up. I can learn from Uncle. Mom doesn't like Dad's type now. She likes Uncle's type. I thought for a moment before realizing he was talking about Hing. You don't need to imitate anyone. Just be yourself. You are my child, and I love whatever personality you have. Was Sherhan's eyes sparkled. staring at me without blinking. Really? Of course. The barrage is speechless. The plot has completely gone off track. Why doesn't Xiao Bao dislike the female supporting character? Instead, he seems to like her a lot. But I think it's right for a child to love their mother, isn't it? A strange aunt suddenly appears to be his mother, and it's not like he doesn't have a mother. Besides, although the female supporting character bosses her son and husband around all day, she hasn't done anything truly evil. You can tell she loves her child. I stood up looking at her Han, who had completely cried herself to exhaustion, and sighed. Turning around, I locked eyes with Hasai, who was standing at the door. He frowned slightly, his handsome face showing a bewildered expression for the first time as soon as he stepped out of his son's bedroom. Wasai immediately spoke up. I didn't teach him anything strange. I thought his personality was just like that. I nodded, hesitating for a few seconds before speaking. I know your personality is innate, but I feel it has too much influence on our son. Children unconsciously imitate the behavior of adults. Horse also pursed his lips. And I continued, since we don't have any feelings for each other. Anyway, why not just get a divorce? I can change too. We spoke at the same time, and the air fell completely silent, with Sai's expression turned grim as he stared at me, seemingly in disbelief. What did you say? I'm also very irritable. Those barrage comments have been tormenting me these days. And I'm almost fed up. My son's words made me realize that Hoth also knows I like him, but he remains cold even after marriage. I thought Wasai's personality was just like that. After all, we were already married and had a child born of love, and I still had feelings for him. I felt that life could go on like this just fine. But the barrage comments and the appearance of the female lead made me realize that he wasn't incapable of love. Someone like him would later lose control and go crazy because he fell in love with the female lead. Wasai's eyes suddenly darkened. He stared at me for a few seconds and repeated in a hoarse voice, I can change, too. I frowned slightly. My son is still young, and it's because he's imitating others. But Hoth isn't like that, either. A person's innate nature is hard to change. Yet, looking at his pale face, I ultimately said nothing. When I came out of the bathroom, the barrage was going crazy. Damn it, why is the screen black again? I hate that I'm reading this novel on a legitimate platform. Female supporting character. I won't scold you anymore. Just describe your husband's current outfit, so we can all have a laugh. Female supporting role. Sisters all over the world are one family. Share your husband's handsome photos everywhere. Quickly show us the good stuff. I fell silent, looking at Hasai on the bed. He remained expressionless, but the blush on his face spread from the tips of his ears all the way down to his neck. I used to enjoy forcing Huai to play roles like doctor, nurse, or butler just to see his reactions. No one can resist the allure of the aloof. Untouchable beauty falling from grace. This was the first time he had ever been so proactive. Seeing the chafed marks on his wrists from the chains, I stepped forward. Did you tie these yourself? Probably doing this for the first time. He was so ashamed that his ears turned even redder, and his voice was beyond recognition. Well, didn't you say you liked it this way last time? After a brief pause, he cleared his throat lightly. No divorce. I frowned, and Hoth seemed to grow anxious as well. No divorce. He stubbornly repeated before I could speak. The barrage of comments had already started scrolling. Tai, what are you guys playing? Wow, the female supporting character and the male lead are playing so wildly in private. What expression does the male lead have now? He must be feeling humiliated. Right, humiliated. I quietly looked at Hasai. He leaned against the bedside, his brows slightly furrowed, unsure if it was due to restricted movement or the tightness of the restraints. The man was clad in an extremely contrasting narrow piece of fabric, revealing well-defined muscle lines wherever the eye could see. My best friend once said that Hose was the only creature in our circle who could captivate someone to death without using any tricks. But now he had resorted to using tricks after all. I swallowed hard, as if the barrage of comments had automatically blurred. I raised my hand and gently traced it across Wasai's abdomen with a muffled groan from the man. A series of red exclamation marks flashed before my eyes, nearly scaring me to death. It's wrong for the supporting female character to defile the male lead. The male lead belongs to the female lead. How could a predetermined ending possibly change? The way the supporting female character is tormenting the male lead now is exactly how she'll be tormented by the plot in the future. Right now, she's tying up the male lead. In the future, she'll be tying up her own legs. The female protagonist's controlling reader has gone mad. I abruptly withdrew my hand, was also furrowed his brows deeply, his gaze dazed as if asking me why I had stopped. Lust is a knife hanging over one's head. Beauty is a distraction. I'm about to divorce him, and now he's trying to seduce me again. I cover my eyes, refusing to look at Hasai's body or those red exclamation marks. The air seems to freeze after a rustling sound. Wasai's voice came through. Go to sleep. I lower my hand, looking at the man who had already turned his back to me. Did the male lead just shed a tear? Does it hurt? The supporting female character doesn't even know to lend a hand and help untie them. I always feel like things aren't that simple. I slept soundly through the night without any dreams. The next day, as soon as I opened my eyes, a handsome and adorable face was magnified right before me. I was startled with Shur's smiling eyes curved, sparkling brightly. Good morning, baby mommy. Then she gave me a big kiss on the cheek. I blinked in confusion, and the barrage of comments was practically melting from the cuteness. Oh my goodness, the cold-faced cutie has met her match. Pure adorableness. How can the supporting female character be so good at being cute? Watching this first thing in the morning makes me want to be a mom without any of the pain. Was Shur Han wiggled his little bottom as he climbed onto the bed, even stepping on Hai, who had just woken up. Mom, I dreamed about you all night last night. Did you miss me? Was my son's personality always like this? I began to doubt myself, and when I looked down, I met Huai's dark, intense gaze. His brows and eyes were filled with gloom. His gaze fixed intently on his son was Sharon, however, seemed not to notice, snuggling into my arms and acting coquettishly. Mom, I learned how to make a fried egg from the nanny. Would you like to try it? I made it especially for you. I patted his head and lifted him off the bed. The bullet comments are bouncing. Haha, I'm dying of laughter. Look at the male lead's resentful gaze. His wife got snatched away early in the morning. Who can he even complain to? Calm this gloomy, creepy male ghost is having a blast. The male lead belongs to the female lead. The male lead belongs to the female lead. Stop shouting upstairs. The female lead hasn't even entered the male lead's office more than a few times, while the supporting female character has slept with him over and over again. Who's the better match? We're not blind. I paused in my steps and turned to look with Sei's gloomy expression, which he hadn't had time to hide, immediately came into view. My son also turned his head, following my gaze. After a few seconds of silence, he spoke slowly like a little adult. Mom, I called Ching Ching, the most popular girl in my class, on my smartwatch this morning. She said, no one likes cold people. Everyone likes warm people. So if I become warm, will you like me? I gently set him down. I will. I'll love you no matter what you're like. The barrage is having fun. Is this kid trying to school his dad? H. Sheeran, a useless dad who can't be carried. This is the liveliest breakfast I've had in the 6 or 7 years since I married Hai. Sheeran seemed to pour out all the words he hadn't spoken over the years, and all the affection he hadn't shown. He held the milk bottle and poured milk for me. He brought out his lovingly made fried eggs from the kitchen, just as I finished eating. A small chubby hand rested on my shoulder. Mom, let me give you a shoulder massage, Wasai. Sitting across from them, the barrage of comments erupted with laughter. This kid has completely let go of himself. He used to put on a cold face when his mom bossed him around. Was he secretly enjoying it all along? This is the smallest lackey I've ever seen. bar none. As the saying goes, like father, like son. I'm even starting to wonder if the male lead secretly enjoys being bossed around by the female lead behind his cold facade. The male lead belongs to the female lead. The male lead belongs to the female lead. To the person above, you're already crying in frustration. I reached out and pinched my son's cheek. It was soft and squishy, a sensation I had never felt before. Was Shirhan glanced at me with a flushed little face, then leaned in a bit closer. Mommy, pinch it again. I like it. Bullet comments. It's the weekend. So, Hai doesn't have to work and Hushirin doesn't have to go to school. The little one is like a shadow calling mommy. Mommy nonstop running around after me. Hai hasn't said a word the whole time, just watching quietly. It wasn't until lunchtime that Hai disappeared. Was Shirin wearing small gloves frowned as he helped me peel the shrimp, completely unconcerned about where his father had gone. The barrage, however, was reporting in real time. What is the male lead doing? Aren't all his clothes customade? What's he doing at a men's clothing store? Didn't I say the plot is irresistible? Meeting the female lead in a men's clothing store. What else could it be but fate? The female lead accidentally damages clothes while working part-time and gets scolded by her boss. And the male lead appears like a savior. The official pairing is amazing. My hand, which was peeling shrimp, paused. For some reason, my heart suddenly started beating faster as if I was anticipating something or perhaps afraid. Yet, the barrage of comments continued to roll on without pause. The person upstairs might be obsessed. The male lead passed by the female lead without even looking up. I doubt he even remembers having such an employee. LOL. I've never seen a male and female lead who perfectly miss each other every time. What exactly are you holding on to? Person upstairs held the shrimp to my mouth, his big round eyes wide open. Mom, why aren't you eating anymore? Did I not peel it? Well, watching the bullet comments say that Hai is already on his way back, I withdraw my thoughts. How could I have ever thought that Hirin and Hasai were exactly the same? He is clearly sunny and adorable. Shirhan, satisfied after watching me put the shrimp into my mouth, spoke with a smile. Mom, if you don't like Dad's cold face, you can always change Dad's. Last time when you were with that uncle, you were laughing so happily, I almost choked on my breath. Was Shirhan's words suddenly stopped, and he glanced guilty toward the door before shutting his mouth. I turned my head, and Hai was also standing at the door, holding 2 bags. The live chat went wild. As soon as the male lead returned home, he found his son digging a hole for him. I'm dying of laughter with that expression on the male lead's face. If little Treasure weren't his son, he'd probably be strung up and beaten by now. Do you think being his son means he won't be strung up and beaten? Wasi also gave Shirin a cold glance before turning and heading back to his room. A few minutes later, I was still eating with my head down when the sound of the door opening came from the room. My son looked up and began coughing violently. I frowned and patted his back. Eating so fast made you choke, didn't it? Was Shirhan took the opportunity to burrow into my arms. While patting him, I looked up. Then I also choked not far away. Hussey's cheeks also flushed with a hint of red as he turned to look out the window. He was wearing a blue hoodie, and this was the first time I had seen him in this type of clothing. Is it ugly? Was Sai's voice remained calm, and I couldn't come up with an answer either. Not ugly, just a bit strange. After all, apart from gray loungewear and suits, Wasai had hardly ever worn anything else besides the sense of incongruity. I also felt that something about it looked very familiar. The barrage answered for me. You also imitate him like this. Fiercely, he found the only way to defeat the third party, which is to imitate the third party. Isn't that genius? I finally know what's wrong. This is exactly the outfit He Ling wore that day. Exactly the same. Not a single detail off. Looking at Hai's equally reddened ear tips, I suddenly wondered if I had misunderstood something. Is the plot truly unsolvable? Wife, I just bought that foot soap you said was comfortable last time. Tonight, I'll help you see also stammered, and the entire living room fell silent. Was Sharon suddenly covered his ears. Ah, Dad, you're so scary. That's so scary. Don't talk like that. I tried hard to hold back my laughter, while the barrage of comments went wild with amusement. This is how a straightforward person gets treated when they finally let loose. Comma. I'm already cringing, so hard my toes are curling. Brother. Ye. Just keep being your cool self. Chasing after your partner doesn't mean making them die of laughter. I thought it would be bad, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. I took 2 deep breaths and finally managed to suppress my laughter. Was C still wanted to say something, but I was afraid I might die laughing. So I quickly stopped him. All right, let's eat first. Throughout the entire meal, I couldn't help but glance up at Hai repeatedly. Damn, the more I looked, the funnier it got after hesitating for a few seconds. I still couldn't resist secretly picking up my phone to take a picture and send it to my best friend from afar. She burst into laughter right away. Is he crazy? What role play are you forcing your husband into again? Wait, this outfit. My heart skipped a beat, and before I could take it back, my best friend's voice message popped up. My hand trembled, and I accidentally played it. Are you making your husband cosplay as my brother? Look at this mess. Why didn't you say you liked my brother sooner? He's been secretly in love with you for so many years. He'd probably jump at the chance to be your third wheel. I immediately threw down my phone and covered my son's ears. Was sure Han didn't hear it, but the blush on Hasai's face completely disappeared. I was so embarrassed that I wanted to say something, but after taking a look at Hai's expression, I ended up saying nothing. In the evening, my son knelt by my feet again to massage my legs. Hose also wore that hoodie as he brought over the foot soaking water, quietly lowering his head to help me wash my feet. I wanted to remind him to change his clothes, but I didn't know how to say it. It wasn't until I had finished showering and was lying in bed with my son, already back in his room and Hose having come out of the bathroom, that I could no longer hold back. Why are you still wearing this outfit? Was he also pursed his lips and said nothing? I stepped forward to tug at his clothes. You've already taken a bath. The back of my head was cupped by someone, and the man eagerly kissed me. The barrage was filled with cries of despair. I've even been forcing myself to ship you two against my conscience. So why won't you let us watch after abstaining for too long? He was also unusually eager this time. There were no barrage reminders warning me about broken legs. Instead, it was all filled with requests for a live stream from the big yellow duck heads. When emotions ran deep, I reached out and pulled head closer to mine. The man paused for a second, his eyes suddenly turning crimson, and his actions grew even more unrestrained. When I came out of the bathroom again, my hands and feet were so weak I could barely move, only to find Hasai sitting motionless by the bed. He was still wearing that hoodie. I frowned and stepped forward to poke it. You're all sweaty. Why aren't you taking it off? The barrage of comments was scrolling rapidly. Your husband is crying, dropping little pearls. I was taken aback, cupping's face, and sure enough, his eyes were red and brimming with glistening tears. I swallowed hard. Oh my, why does Wasai look like this? What's wrong with you? Comma, is the female supporting character a blockhead? Asking and asking again. Why not just kiss him until he faints and stops crying? Comma, you wouldn't let us watch when you were doing it, and now you're asking everyone for advice on how to comfort your husband. Comma, what else could it be? He probably thinks he can only sleep with you because he's wearing that outfit and it's making him feel bad. Right. I was taken aback for a moment, then found it's somewhat amusing. Wasai's voice was also hoarse. Do you like him that much? So much that you'll only touch me when I'm wearing these clothes. Jia Chen Xiao, you're such a fickle-hearted bad woman. I choked up, and Hai's tears fell even harder. When you liked me, you made me wear those things, and I agreed. When you didn't like me, you wouldn't even touch me. I tried so hard to seduce you, and you didn't even budge. I noticed something was off a long time ago. You wouldn't let me massage your legs, rub your back, or bathe you. And you weren't interested in my body either, even though you used to love it the most. You only touched me when I dressed like him. How could you? He took a deep breath. Can we not get divorced? I can be like our son. I'll change if you like. I can dress up for you. I can learn from him. Please don't look for him anymore. I can do better. A wave of ellipses in the barrage. Can't bear to look. Can't bear to look. Comma. Such a worthless look. Really embarrassing us men. Comma. If you want face, you won't have a wife. Your wife is about to divorce you. If it were me, I wouldn't want face either. After 2 seconds of silence, I decided to tell him the truth. I don't dislike you, nor have I fallen for someone else. It's just because I opened my mouth only to find that I couldn't utter a single word about the plot. My eyes widened in shock. Oh, there's an encryption system. I tried again, still only opening my mouth without speaking. Jose's gaze was fixed tightly on my mouth, his eyes gradually darkening. Honey, you're so cute. Me. Are you opening and closing your mouth like that to seduce me? Bullet comments. The male lead seems to have been driven mad by a love rival. I looked up at the sky, speechlessly, and finally decided to give up. Wasai also sighed in resignation and kissed me, no matter the reason, as long as you're by my side. When I came out of the bathroom again, I had no strength left at all. Was also held my hand. Honey, many people in our company have their wives sending them loving lunches. I lazily hummed in agreement. Was cool voice sounded again. My assistant brags all day long. I hummed in agreement again, feeling drowsy. Was also fell silent. And the barrage was hilarious. Brother Ye is still holding back. It's so awkward. Why don't you just say you want your wife to come to the company and give you a proper title? But this way, the female lead and the supporting female character will meet, won't they? Oh, you're right. I almost forgot about the supporting female character. My eyes widened suddenly. Indeed, lust is a dangerous trap. How could I forget that I'm the supporting female character? Brainstorming for 2 seconds. I turned my head. I can't cook. Was Say's eyes also lit up? I can. You just need to deliver it. Me the next day. I searched for a long time to find a rival's battle outfit, dressed up fiercely, and headed to Hasai's company with a lunchbox. The bullet comments were also particularly lively. Battlefield of love. Battlefield of love. Honestly, I've switched sides during this time. Sorry. Female lead. But the male lead and the supporting female character are really a great match. I clenched my fist, feeling inexplicably nervous. The receptionist greeted me with a smile. Are you the madam? The CEO is waiting for you up ahead. I was taken aback, looking up at Hai not far away. Why is he standing here instead of working? After that, he took me around the company for 5 or 6 laps, and I even started to suspect he might be lost. The barrage comments are hilarious. The male lead is so scheming, as if afraid others wouldn't know his wife has arrived. I found it somewhat amusing. My legs were already sore, and I was about to say that's enough. But when I looked up, I saw a beautiful woman standing in front of me. The screen was flooded with exclamation marks. I stiffened my body. I remember her. The woman who took Shirhan to buy fried chicken last time. Also, the female lead mentioned in the bullet comments. Ah, you are the CEO's wife. She clearly recognized me too. Our eyes met and the woman widened her eyes in surprise. She glanced at Hasai, then back at me. An eerie silence hung for 2 seconds as she glanced at the top of Hasai's head. Wasai frowned, clearly not understanding why this employee was blocking the way, leading me past her toward the office. We hadn't taken more than a few steps when hurried. Footsteps sounded from behind. My heart pounded like a drum, and the barrage of comments on the screen went wild. It's coming. It's coming. The female supporting character and the female lead are about to have a huge fight. As a fan of the female lead, I'm shamefully wavering. Sorry, I'd like to ask you a question. The woman's voice was pleasant, and she looked at me somewhat awkwardly. Well, what kind of formula does Shirao Bao usually drink? My son is about the same age as him, but half ahead. Shorter. I asked Xiaobao last time, and he said, "You always buy it. I've been wanting to ask you if I ever got the chance." I froze for a moment, a faint blush creeping across my cheeks. A big man like the CEO probably wouldn't know much about these things. My husband is the same. Every time I ask him to buy it, he gets it wrong. If it's convenient, could you tell me the brand? My ears were ringing and my mind had gone completely blank. The barrage is clearly more shocked than I am. Are you kidding me? The male lead getting married is one thing, but how come the female lead is married too? Who are you discriminating against? Upstairs. Why can the male lead get married, but not the female lead? I say, not only can the female lead get married, she can marry 18 bigamy warning. The plot has completely collapsed. Should I abandon it? Abandon the story? Same here. Then the bullet comments in front of me grew increasingly faint, and a hand waved in front of my eyes. Hai also frowned slightly, a hint of concern appearing on his icy face. What's wrong with you? I looked down at my own legs and suddenly felt a strong urge to laugh. What broken legs and disability? What irreversible plot? These crazy bullet comments are just trying to scare people. Entering Huai's office, I fell silent once again. Hose also seemed to have forgotten to take it off. Following my shocked gaze, his face instantly flushed red. We took 2 photos at the time, and there wasn't enough space at home to hang them. Jose's office hanging on the wall is that huge wedding photo he said was ugly. He was too embarrassed to speak. Jose's exclusive assistant tweeted in which surprised me a bit. "Madam, you finally showed up. The CEO has been talking about you every day saying, you're very busy, but you still manage to find time to make a loving lunch every day. We're all so envious. Me, the drama queen, loving lunch every day." I looked up at Hai, but only saw the man's face, which he was trying hard to keep cold, and his reddened nose tipped my iceberg had already melted long ago. What are your thoughts after hearing this story? Feel free to share your feelings in the comment section. Now, let's start a new story. The day I was killed. My husband was with his first love. They embraced, kissed, rekindled their old flame, and quickly married after my death for 10 years. Only the detective in charge of the case struggled to sleep day and night after successfully capturing the killer. He was interviewed and remained silent for a long time before saying, "The victim, she was the person I loved most." The media erupted in an uproar. When I woke up again, I had returned to my 20-year-old self, and he was still the aloof campus heartthrob at the police university. I was caught by him while climbing over the wall. "What are you doing?" I jolted awake. I came to confess. "Sununyan, wake up quickly. You're going to be late for your date." I was shaken awake by my roommate, my mind still filled with scenes of Jiang Shea being interviewed. "Song Kong has called you several times already." I was taken aback for a moment. This seemed to be the day I first went on a date with Seong Kong. When I was 20 years old, the phone rang again. It was Song Yong Kong. "Sununyan, what have you been so busy with? I thought you dropped dead when you didn't answer the phone." My nerves suddenly jumped. The memory of the blade cutting through the throat feels as if it were yesterday. "Why aren't you speaking? Are you mute?" He has always treated me poorly. If he hadn't just broken up with his first love, I would never have had the chance to date him back then. I remained infatuated with this childhood sweetheart I had secretly loved since I was young, lowering myself to the extreme, licking my wounds to the fullest, and enduring until we got married. I thought I had finally achieved a happy ending. But on the day I died, tragically on the streets, he rekindled his old flame with his first love and remarried in a hurry shortly after my death. Seeing that I still hadn't answered, Se Yong Kong sneered and hung up directly. I let out a cold laugh. Having been reborn, I will certainly not repeat the same mistakes. Just as I lay down, a sudden jolt made me sit up again back then. It was through dating Song Yong Kong that I had the chance to meet his classmate, Jiang Shea, who was also studying at the police university. If I don't go to the appointment now, won't I lose the chance to even get to know Jiang Shea in my past life? Jiang Shea was the only one who truly loved me. I can't miss this opportunity again. I immediately got up and left our medical school, jogging over to the neighboring police academy. The public security university implements closed management requiring a student escort for entry. I made several calls to Seong Kong, but he didn't answer any of them. If I missed this opportunity, I don't know when I'll get to meet Jiang Shu and Ya. As I lingered outside the wall, I looked up and spotted a section of iron railings. It's lower here than anywhere else. So, without thinking much, I rolled up my sleeves and started climbing. Just as I was about to jump down after climbing over the wall, a sharp shout suddenly came from behind. "What are you doing?" I jolted and turned to look. Behind me stood several tall boys wearing black short-sleeve shirts with buzz cuts. The one at the front had a high nose bridge and sharp, piercing eyes staring straight at me. My breath suddenly hitched in my past life. After successfully capturing the criminal, he stood before the camera in his police uniform, silent for a long time, though only in his 30s. His hair had already turned gray. Finally, he opened his mouth and said something that caught everyone off guard. "The victim, she is the person I love most. And at this moment, he is looking at me, his brow furrowed tightly." I jumped down from the wall, feeling so nervous under his gaze that I didn't know what to do with my hands and feet. On impulse, I blurted out what was on my mind. "I'm here to confess my feelings." As soon as the words left my mouth, the boys behind him burst into laughter. "Confess to whom? She looks familiar. Isn't she Seong Kong's childhood friend? Oh my, I knew it. A sweetheart. Huh, quiet." Jiang Shia interrupted them, turning his head to look at me. "Come with me to the security office to explain." He turned to look at me. "I came to confess my feelings to you." Everyone at the scene fell silent for a few seconds. Then it exploded instantly, but in the end I was taken to the security office because the patrolling teacher saw me explained clearly. "How did you get in and why did you come in?" The teacher, dressed in a police uniform, looked at me with a stern expression. "I'm sorry, teacher. I was so nervous that I couldn't speak for a long time." The teacher frowned. "Which school are you from? What's your ID number? I'll contact your school." Jiang Shu and Ya, who had been standing at the door, pushed it open and entered. "Teacher, this is my friend. They came in without permission because they couldn't reach me, causing trouble for the school. I accept any punishment." He took all the blame upon himself. I hurriedly denied it. "No, it was me." Jiang Shia reached out a long arm and pushed me aside. The teacher's gaze swept between the two of us. "Jiang Shu and Ya, you are an outstanding student at our police university. Even if you're in a relationship, you need to learn how to handle emotional matters properly." He didn't rush to deny it. "Understood. Go back and get your self-criticism from your team leader." Okay. After saying that, the teacher turned around to drink tea while Jiang Shia grabbed me by the back of the neck and quickly led me away. Once we were outside the school gate, he finally let go. Seeing him turn to leave, I quickly grabbed hold of him. He looked down at me, his brow furrowed tightly. "If you keep holding on, you can explain it to the security department yourself." I immediately let go. "Jiang Shu and Ya, I came here to talk to you about." "I refuse." I was taken aback. "First, I don't know you. Second, we have no connection. Third," he paused briefly, "if I like someone, I wouldn't let her take the initiative to confess." After saying that, he turned and walked away. I stood frozen in place. He was right. Now, we were nothing but strangers. Suddenly, memories from my past life flooded back. All my interactions with Jiang Shu and Ya were intertwined with the emotional entanglements I had with Seong Kong. At that time, my impression of him was that of a silent, serious, and unsiling rough man. Compared to Seong Kong's tall and slender build, he was robust, tall, and had dark skin, but a strong preference for wearing black clothes. Later, he and Seong Kong joined the criminal police team together, and he became Seong Kong's captain. Even then, we were still just acquaintances who exchanged nods. The turning point came during a hospital stay. At that time, I was already working at the hospital, and it so happened that Jiang Xie was hospitalized due to an injury sustained on duty right at our hospital. To ensure that Seong Kong's leader would look out for him, I brought him homemade meals every day and paid extra attention to the progress of his condition. Later, I started staying behind to chat with him for 2 consecutive months, rain or shine. At that time, my heart and eyes were completely filled with Song Yong Kong, and I paid no attention to other members of the opposite sex. Naturally, I didn't realize that these warm gestures had touched the heart of Captain Zhang, who was just beginning to experience love. But not long after, I told him, I like Yong Kong. In this lifetime, I only hope he will respond to me. He remained silent for a long time. If I had a girl I liked, I would never let her take the initiative to confess. I didn't notice the dimness in his eyes. All I knew was that from then on, whenever Song Yong Kong treated me poorly, he would step in to criticize him, never caring whether his actions crossed a line. I thought he considered me a friend. But on the day of my wedding to Song Yong Kong, he did not show up until I died, tragically on the street. My husband, also a police officer, rekindled his romance with his first love, even resigning from his police duties just to travel the world with her. Only Jiang Shu and Ya, restless day and night, found commonalities in other cases, handled them jointly, and ultimately succeeded in apprehending the murderer. My soul has been wandering in this world for 10 years. My last memory is of Jiang Xie expressing his feelings for me during an interview. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the age of 20, and everything was still within reach. But now, in my eagerness to confess my feelings to him, I ended up achieving the opposite, making things worse that night as I tossed and turned in bed. Se Yong Kong called again. Sun Yan, I've had too much to drink at the KTV. Can you come pick me up? His voice sounded weak and pitiful, with none of the harshness from earlier in the day. I was taken aback, suddenly reminded of a similar incident from my past life. He had lied about being drunk and asked me to pick him up. In a panic, I rushed over in my pajamas, only to find him perfectly fine, grinning as he said to the person beside him, "See, I told you she'd come whenever I called." I stood at the door like a dog on display, utterly devoid of dignity. But why did this kind of manipulation happen ahead of schedule? Just as I was wondering, I suddenly heard someone shouting on the other end of the phone. She confessed to Brother Jiang today, and now she's still at Seong Kong's beck and call. Isn't that a slap in the face for a Brother Jiang? Right, Brother Jiang. My heart skipped a beat. Is Jiang Xie here too? The refusal lingered on the tip of my tongue, but I curved my lips into a smile. All right, wait for me. Song Yong Kong's voice noticeably lifted. Okay, after hanging up the phone, I dialed a number from memory. Hey, a deep male voice sounded. I'm the girl who confessed to you today. My name is Sinan Yen. Without waiting for his response, I continued. Now that you know me, we're going to start crossing paths. Are you drunk right now? What? I can even imagine Jiang Xie frowning right now. I smiled and said, drink a bit more. I'm coming to pick you up right now. After hanging up the phone, I didn't even change my clothes and took a taxi straight to the KTV. Following the location sent by Song Yong Kong, I stopped in front of a private room, took a deep breath, and pushed the door open. The noisy crowd instantly fell silent. Then someone burst into laughter. Less than half an hour. Brother Song is amazing. I admit defeat. Oh, you really do come at the drop of a hat. The looks they gave me were full of mockery and disdain, just like in my past life. The difference was that in the dark corner of the private room, a tall, straight figure sat there holding a glass of wine from start to finish. I casually picked up a wine bottle and walked expressionlessly over to Seong Kong. His expression changed. Sun Yan, what are you doing? Lying to me. He sneered. I didn't force you. You came on your own. He looked down at the wine bottle in my hand. What? Seeking revenge? It was a mutual affair. Must you make it so awkward? I smiled, leisurely, setting down the wine bottle. After all, It was just meant to scare him. Sun Yong Kong, don't flatter yourself. I'm here to pick someone else up. His expression stiffened. Then he sneered. Everyone here is my friend. Who do you know? It's fine to save face, but if you're going to talk tough, at least do it with some finesse. Don't make a fool of yourself. The crowd burst into laughter along with him. At that moment, the figure in the darkness stood up. The private room fell silent instantly, and someone whispered, "Brother Jang." He slowly walked up to me, lifted his eyelids to glance at Seong Kong, then turned to me. "Let us go." The moment the private room door closed, I heard the sound of a wine bottle shattering, along with the voices of everyone trying to hold Song Yong Kong back and desperately calming him down. I followed Jiang Shea out of the KTV. This northern city had already entered autumn. It had just rained and the night breeze brushed by, carrying a chill. I instinctively shrank my neck at a street corner. The figure in front suddenly stopped. I almost bumped into them under the streetlight. Jiang Shea looked down at me, his eyes and brows shrouded in shadow, appearing exceptionally deep. "Sununyan." Ah, this makes me feel troubled. I was taken aback, but quickly understood what he meant. He doesn't like it when I'm too proactive. Frustration welled up. Even after being reborn, I still lack rationality when it comes to emotions. I get carried away by passion, act without careful consideration, and do things that others see as outrageous. After saying this, Jiang Shu and you put his hands in his pockets and strode forward. But our schools are next to each other, and there's only one way back. I had no choice but to brace myself and follow behind him, keeping a considerable distance. Walking to the entrance of an alley, someone suddenly darted out and bumped into me hard, nearly knocking me to the ground. Yet, they didn't even apologize, leaving in a flustered hurry. How could you? A familiar scent drifted into my nostrils, and I froze abruptly. It is the unique scent of temple incense mingled with wild grass after the rain. In my past life, the person who carried this scent abducted me into a dark alley on a rainy night. Standing behind me, he pressed a knife against my neck and said in a sinister voice, "You're too much of a nuisance." I jolted awake and the person was already gone. I looked toward the dark alley beside me. Dark and endless, nothing can be seen. Fear slowly creeps up my spine to the top of my head, sending waves of numbness. I run toward Jiang Shu and grab him. Jiang Shu Enya. He seems to have exhausted his last bit of patience, frowning as he looks at me. "What on earth do you want?" Perhaps my expression was twisted with fear. Jiang Shea paused for a moment. I pulled him toward the dark alley. "Someone's in trouble over there. You saw it. I didn't see it, but something must have happened to someone." Jiang Shea pulled me back and stopped. "Sununyan, using this kind of excuse to keep me is pointless." I shook my head desperately, my eyes turning red. "Believe me, I swear. If not, I will never bother you again." He was clearly shaken. After a pause, he finally walked over with me. Stepping into the pitch-black alley, puddles of rainwater collected in the uneven ground everywhere. By the light of the phone, we inched forward with nothing but moss-covered brick walls on either side. Could I have guessed wrong? I looked up at Jiang Shu Enya, but his expression grew even more serious. "Should we go back?" I asked. He suddenly raised his foot and walked toward the innermost part of the alley. It turned out there was a hidden path there, and at the deepest point, a woman covered in bright red lay motionless. I quickly ran forward and felt her carotid artery. There's still a breath left on her chest. There is a wound that is bleeding profusely. She's still alive. Call an ambulance. After saying that, I took off my coat, pressed it against her wound, and performed simple hystesis. Soon, the sound of sirens pierced the night sky. The injured woman was taken to the hospital and after emergency treatment was out of life-threatening danger. Jiang Shu Enya and I went to the police station together to give our statements, whether in my past life or now. I never got a clear look at the killer's face. In my previous life, At the press conference where Jiang Xie announced the capture of the criminal, I was reborn before I could even learn the identity of the murderer. Therefore, aside from providing the unique scent on the murderer, I had no other clues to offer. As we walked out of the police station, Jiang Xie couldn't help but ask, "How did you know someone was murdered there?" Intuition. I deliberately changed the subject. "So, how did you know there was another path behind the alley?" I smelled blood. We both fell silent. After a moment, he broke the quiet. "Sorry, I shouldn't have doubted you." I scratched my head. It's normal to be suspicious when you suddenly hear me say something like that. The atmosphere falls quiet again. We walk side by side for a while before he speaks again. "Sununyan, you're not quite what I imagined." I was taken aback and half jokingly asked, "Is that better or worse?" Yet, he remained silent and didn't answer. "If you don't say anything, I'll take it as better." The night wind rustled, making the fallen leaves whisper softly. Finally, he raised his head. "I'll take you back." News of the vicious assault nearby quickly spread. The entire university town was in a state of panic. As I stepped out of the laboratory building, I spotted a figure in a white dress from afar. My footsteps came to an abrupt halt, a chill spreading from the soles of my feet throughout my body. Bai Jirwen, the first love that Song Yong Kong could never forget. She was also the one Song Yong Kong was embracing and kissing when I met my tragic end on the streets in my previous life back then. To win Song Yong Kong's affection, I desperately imitated Bai Jirwen, copying her every smile and frown, her way of dressing when she applied to medical school. I followed her to the same university just to be closer to Song Yong Kong. Looking back now, it feels both pitiful and laughable. I still remember when my soul drifted to their side. They were in the midst of passion at a hotel. She asked him, "Aren't you afraid your wife will find out? She loves me so much she'd die for me. There's no way she'd ever find out. And even if she did, what could she do?" True, even if she found out. She loves you so much, she'd probably forgive you with tears in her eyes. They exchanged a smile, full of mockery. Even though my heart had already stopped beating, I felt a tearing pain in my chest. I screamed and wailed, but they couldn't hear me at all. After learning of my death, Song Yong Kong only pretended to be sad for a moment. Before my first week of mourning had even passed, he eagerly moved in to live with Baiji. He even gave up his police work for her. "Sununyan," a voice interrupted my memories. As Baiji walked toward me, "I heard you went to KTV for Seong Kong's gathering a few days ago. I'm not surprised she knows about this. She has always loved Seong Kong in her heart." The breakup was only due to pride and stubbornness. As his childhood friend and a sister who has always liked him, I naturally became the object of her intense attention, and I didn't want to explain too much. He probably couldn't find anyone else to go with. She clearly misunderstood, trying to prove something to me during our breakup. He kept messaging me and even had people deliver many letters to me. When a man is this devoted, it's really hard to resist. I looked at her expressionlessly. "Is that so?" "Yes." She tried hard to hide the triumphant smile curling at the corners of her mouth. I struggled with it for a long time and finally decided to give him another chance. As she spoke, she pointed toward the school gate. "We made plans to go downtown today." I frowned. "Isn't today a day off?" "It's not a day off. Police academy students aren't allowed to leave campus," she said smugly. As soon as he heard I was willing to talk, he immediately asked for leave from the school. Her expression seemed to say that she was far more important to him than I was. I sneered coldly. "What a truly remarkable and great love." "Then I wish you both a good time." Just as I was about to turn and leave, Bai Jerome suddenly looked into the distance and said, "Young Kong, I'm over here." I turn around and lock eyes with Seong Kong. He is clearly taken aback, obviously not expecting to see me here either. Ever since Jiang Shu and I left that day, Song Yong Kong has sent me several messages questioning our relationship, none of which I replied to finally. I grew so annoyed that I simply blocked him. now that we meet. He clearly wants to make a fuss about me blocking him, but with Byron present, he holds back again and again before shifting his attention away from me. Yet, from start to finish, I remained utterly indifferent. I neither let Jiren see the resentment she expected, nor allowed Song Yong Kong to witness the infatuation I had always shown. Both of them were doing their best to conceal the surprise in their eyes. I lifted my chin and turned to leave. That evening, I received a phone call. May I ask if this is Sun Yen? Who is this? The person on the other end was emotional. I am the mother of the girl you saved that day. Do you have time tonight? I would like to invite you to dinner to express my gratitude in person. That really isn't necessary. It was all part of my duty. If it's not convenient for you, I can come to your school. Would that be all right? The girl's mother was so insistent that it was hard to refuse. But if she comes to school, the fact that I saved people by scent will surely become widely known, and it might become more difficult to use the same method to identify the culprit later. So, I agreed to go to the appointment, but added, actually, saving people was mainly thanks to another friend of mine. His name is Jiang Shu, and yeah, you should invite him first. If he goes, I'll go, too. Then, I'll go ask him. If he's willing to come, you must come along, too. Okay. After hanging up the phone, I pouted. I really left this aunt with a tough task. It wasn't a day off. So Jiang Shu, and yet, as a police academy student, couldn't leave campus at all from what I know of him. He wouldn't casually take leave like S. Yong Kong busy until evening. My phone rang again. It was a text message. When I saw who sent it, my heart skipped a beat. Captain Jiang, I'm at your school gate. I slowly typed out a question mark, and the other side replied instantly, well, leave in 5 minutes. I jogged to the school gate, and from afar, I saw Jiang Shinyanya standing under the street, light, dressed in all black, looking strong and tall. I asked breathlessly, where are we going? He looked puzzled. Isn't that girl's mother inviting you to dinner? I never agreed to go. He fell silent. I gradually came back to my senses. Did she tell you I would be there, too? He tacitly agreed. Suddenly, I found him unexpectedly naive and couldn't resist teasing him. So, you took leave just to come out. Were you worried about me walking alone at night? He turned and walked away. I chased after him. Hey, I was just joking. Don't be angry. The banquet was held at a high-end restaurant. The girl's mother, her eyes red, expressed her gratitude to us and had prepared many valuable gifts. But both Jiang Shaya and I declined them. After all, attending the banquet was simply to fulfill a mother's wish. On the way back, Jiang Shaya discussed the case with me. According to what the aunt said, her daughter usually didn't have any enemies, so the perpetrator was likely a random offender. I nodded, agreeing with what he said. He continued to speculate. You said the suspect came out of the alley that day, bumped into you, and walked in the opposite direction from us, assuming he was the perpetrator and wanted to avoid surveillance. He only had 2 options: either go to a more remote area or head to a crowded place. I remember that direction has a side gate to your second campus. I was taken aback. You mean he might be a student from our school? That possibility can't be ruled out. We looked at each other simultaneously and read the same thought in each other's eyes. Arriving at the entrance of the incident alley, we started heading toward the side gate of the second campus, following the route the killer might have taken that night. Along the way, as long as we deliberately avoided detection, we could easily evade surveillance and blend in with the students coming and going at the school gate. Jiang Shu and Ya and I stopped by the roadside. Our expressions grave. If the perpetrator is truly a student, the consequences would be unimaginable. I looked up, searching for the nearest surveillance camera outside the school gate, but as I stepped back, I accidentally lost my footing and fell backward. A large hand firmly caught me around the waist, lifting me forward. I fell into a solid embrace. A faint scent of sweat mixed with intense hormones filled my nostrils, and the tips of my ears instantly grew hot. I raised my hand to gently push him away when a loud voice shouted from behind. What are you two doing? Jiang Shu and Ya and I both turned around at the same time. Seong Kong stood not far away, glaring at us with a face full of anger. Behind him was Bai Jiruan, whose face had turned ashen. The arm wrapped around my waist suddenly tightened. I instinctively looked up and heard Jiang Shuya ask coldly, "What does it have to do with you?" Song Yong Kong was clearly even more furious. "Jiang, she's my childhood friend, and now you're getting handsy with her. What does that have to do with me? Just because she's a childhood friend, she's not allowed to fall in love." Hearing this usually serious man say the word love made my heart skip a beat. Se Yong Kong's face twisted with anger. He rushed forward and grabbed my wrist tightly. "Come with me," but was easily torn off by Jiang Suna. The two stared at each other, the atmosphere tense and confrontational. Just then Bai Jiran let out a cry of awe and fell to the ground. Song Yong Kong snapped back to reality and quickly turned around. What happened? Her eyes were red. I accidentally twisted my ankle. "I'll carry you to the hospital." Okay. The absurd farce ended with Bai Jan lying on Song Yong Kong's back, glaring fiercely at me. After regaining calm, Jiang Shuya released his hand. "Are you okay?" I shook my head. The air grew quiet once more. I really want to ask what exactly he meant by that word love just now, but after struggling for a long time, I still couldn't bring myself to ask. Perhaps it was just his way of standing up for me, because he couldn't stand Song Yong Kong. Bringing it up now would only make things awkward. Jiang Shuya suddenly spoke up. "Just now I know you were trying to help me out of kindness. Thank you." He paused for a moment. "No need." As time passed, the vicious assault incident gradually faded from memory, and the campus returned to its former tranquility. Since that separation, Jiang Shu and Ya and I have kept in touch, but our conversations have been limited to speculations and updates about the case. Now that we could finally communicate normally, I didn't dare to be as bold and unrestrained as before. After all, based on his behavior in our previous life, he seemed to prefer a slow, burning, subtle kind of affection. Meanwhile, perhaps dissatisfied with my sudden change in behavior and attitude, Se Yong Kong suddenly went against his usual demeanor, constantly contacting me through different numbers, and even going so far as to send me apology letters through others. I just treated all these things like trash and threw them away. He probably didn't know that during this time, whenever he contacted Bai Jerome, the latter would flaunt it to me triumphantly. So, this wasn't about him feeling remorseful or sincerely wanting to apologize to me. It was just his unwillingness to accept that his years of devotion had shifted to someone else. I put all of this behind me and focused on building a relationship with Captain Jiang. At noon, I went to the cafeteria for lunch and happened to see Bai Jiruan again. But this time, there was another boy sitting beside her, eagerly attending to her. I narrowed my eyes, feeling that this boy looked somewhat familiar. After thinking for a long time, I finally remembered his name from my memory. Kaya Jaja, Bai Jeroen's admirer from their university days. My memory of him is only a vague image. The reason I remember his name is because it's the same as my elementary school classmates. But I recall that in my previous life, Bai Jeroen didn't seem to give him a chance. So why is she having a meal with him now? However, it has nothing to do with me. I glanced over and didn't pay any more attention, lowering my head to focus on my meal. But Bai Jiran saw me. She carried her tray and deliberately sat down next to me. Sununyan, what a coincidence. I forced a smile. Our school only has one cafeteria. It is quite a coincidence. At the same time, Xiaowa also came over and sat down. As he passed by me, my hand, holding the chopstick, suddenly froze. It was that familiar scent, the smell of temple incense and fresh grass, mixed with the aroma of the cafeteria food. It was almost imperceptible, but this taste has been etched into my very bones, unforgettable for all eternity. I feigned composure as I looked at the boy before me. He hunched his shoulders, wore glasses, and his slightly long bangs covered his eyebrows, obscuring his expression. Yet, I could still sense his affection for Baiji. In that fleeting moment, I suddenly recalled the words the murderer had spoken to me before my death. "You're too much of a hindrance." I thought about all the people around me who might say this to me, but I never expected that he and I had no real connection at all. And the reason he found me a hindrance was simply because I was obstructing his goddess's pursuit of love. At this thought, a chill ran down my spine, and anger surged uncontrollably from the depths of my heart. So just because my existence stood in the way of that despicable couple, I had to vanish from this world. "Why are you trembling?" Baijiron suddenly asked. I snapped back to reality, only to realize that my fingers had been shaking all along. Nothing. I lost my appetite, picked up my tray, and left. Baijiron stood up and followed me, with Xiaoa no longer by her side. She instantly revealed her true colors. "Sununyan, don't think you're the only one who can use such tactics." I was taken aback. What? Keeping a backup? Deliberately making Yongkong jealous and drawing all his attention. "So, you gave Chia a chance just to make Song Yongkong jealous." "Exactly." A cold sneer rose from the depths of my heart. Does she even realize what a foolish thing she's doing? Keeping a murderer as a backup. How could she stoop so low? "Do you know what kind of person Xiaoa is?" She was taken aback. "What kind of person he is has nothing to do with you." "It has nothing to do with me. I'm just kindly reminding you to be careful not to get burned while playing with fire." Unexpectedly, she sneered. "Sun Yan, don't think I don't know what you're up to. You're just saying this on purpose to make me back off, aren't you? Don't worry. If you keep a backup, I can too." The corners of my mouth tightened slightly. "Please stop calling him a backup. Jiang Shu and I have a clean relationship. Nothing like your dirty thoughts." After saying that, I glanced at Xiaoa, who was looking this way, and turned to leave. Kind words cannot save a doomed soul. Everyone has their own fate. What happens to her has nothing to do with me, but the punishment that a criminal deserves. I will certainly not let him escape. I took out my phone and sent a message to Jiang Shuya. "I think I found the criminal." I arranged to meet Jiang Shuya at a cafe. It was the weekend, and the shop was filled with couples on dates. The coffee hasn't even arrived yet, and the couple at the next table are already making out. I feel utterly awkward, restless, and uneasy. Jiang Shu however, acts as if he hasn't noticed anything, focusing intently on discussing the case with me. "So, you identified the perpetrator just by the scent." Well, although the scent was very faint, I recognized it immediately. But after the victim woke up, she didn't mention any special smell on the perpetrator. "Could you have mistaken it?" I shook my head vigorously. "Absolutely not." As soon as I finished speaking, everyone around turned to look at me. I only then realized my voice was quite loud due to excitement. However, the scent I smelled before my death in my previous life, I absolutely could not have mistaken it. But now, relying solely on the scent without evidence, it is indeed difficult to convince others. Jiang Shuya stared at me intently. Just when I thought even he didn't believe me, he suddenly spoke up. "Then let's investigate Xiaoa first." I was taken aback. "You believe me?" His tone was natural. "Why wouldn't I believe you?" I stared at him in a daze, unable to utter a word for a long time. So this is what it feels like to be trusted without question. In my past life with Song Yongkong, I never experienced it. Just then, Jiang Shinyanya suddenly placed his hands on my shoulders and turned me halfway around. I looked up in confusion and saw that the tips of his ears had turned red. The sound of ambiguous lips and tongues came from behind, and I suddenly understood his behavior. "So, just now, he really didn't see it?" I deliberately asked. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Is there something behind me that I shouldn't see?" "No, but I think I heard the sound of kissing." Captain Jiang's ears turned even redder, and there was a hint of barely noticeable anger in his gaze as he looked at me. I pretended not to notice and pushed my luck further. "Have you never kissed anyone before?" As it turns out, one should know when to stop. What could have been a perfectly good date was ruined by my careless words. Fortunately, Jiang Shuya still remembered our agreement, and without any evidence, we began investigating Xiaoa. During the investigation, I was surprised to discover that Xiaoa actually practiced Buddhism. Apart from trying to please Baijiruan, he had no particular hobbies. Whenever he had free time, he would sit on the lawn and daydream. These discoveries filled me with excitement. This successfully explains why he carries the scent of incense and fresh grass. But scent alone cannot serve as evidence. We need additional corroboration. This case left no biological evidence, and the police have no surveillance footage. Reporting it to the police now would only alert the suspect. I had no choice but to observe him discreetly, hoping to uncover any clues from his behavior. But my actions were discovered by Baiji. She thought I was going to tell him her true feelings. So, she desperately tried to stop me. Sun Yan, don't think that by saying all sorts of nonsense to Xiaoa, you can change his feelings for me. He is much more devoted than you imagine. I found it utterly baffling. Do you think stringing Xiao Long like this will make Song Yong Kong pay more attention to you? Suddenly, she perked up. Let me tell you, Yong Kong cherishes me like never before. Back then, you hypocritically advised me to see through Xiaoa. Now I see. He was just the means to make Yong Kong cherish me even more. Sununyan, you've used this trick before, so you should know it all too well, right? I truly never expected that she thought I was deliberately trying to stop her from keeping a backup option. Even more unexpected was that this trick actually worked on Song Yong Kong, Tieske. How pathetic is that? Speaking of which, during this time, Song Yong Kong hasn't bothered me anymore. It seems his attention has been completely captured by Baiji. I'm enjoying the peace and quiet. Thinking of this, I look at Baiji with a very sympathetic gaze. The men entangled with her. One is a cold-blooded, ruthless murderer, and the other is a heartless man who only knows how to compete for dominance. Truly pitiful. What's with that look? Baijiron asked. Nothing. Just thought you looked really good today. After saying that, I turned and walked away. Take care of yourself. The investigation into Xiaoa is still ongoing. Every night, I discuss his motives and movements with Jiang Shuya on the phone, searching for any clues that could serve as evidence. Another weekend arrived and Jiang Shu Enya and I met again at the cafe. It started raining heavily outside, so I walked out holding an umbrella. Just before leaving school, I ran into Baijiruan. She looked a bit haggard, and just as I was about to ignore her, she took the initiative to approach me. Sun Yan. I stopped. What's up? She pursed her lips, looking hesitant. Did you know something about Xiaoa before? I was taken aback. What? After hesitating for a long time, she spoke up. I saw Xiaoa's diary, and it seems like he diary. I jolted awake. If there's something written in it, wouldn't that serve as perfect evidence? What diary? I asked. He drew many little figures, all covered with the word kill. My excitement cooled bit. If it weren't for the written content, it would be hard to be considered as evidence. But at least this shows that Xiaoa still has many secrets we don't know about. Besides these, did you see anything else? No. All right. Then, I have something to attend to, so I'll be going now. Yen. She called out to me again. Do you know something you're unwilling to tell me? I know there's bad blood between us, but matters of life and death are no joking matter. How about this? Let's bury the hatchet, and you tell me everything you know. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Why should I let bygones be bygones with you? And why should I tell you everything I know? Because in my past life, you knowingly became the third party. Or is it because your secret admirer killed me? Each rhetorical question drips blood in my heart, stinging every nerve. I didn't want to deal with her anymore, so I turned and left. On the way to the appointment, I messaged Jiang Shu, Enya. I'll be there soon. 10 minutes. Just after sending this message, I was gagged by a pair of hands and lost consciousness. Within seconds, when I woke up again, I found myself in an unfinished abandoned building. My hands and feet were tied, My mouth was sealed with tape, and standing before me was a fully armed man with only his eyes visible. Yet, I recognized him at a glance. It was Xiaoa. "What did you say to Baiji?" he asked, realizing my mouth was still sealed with tape. He paused and pulled out a sharp knife. "If you dare make a sound, I'll stab you to death right away." The rain outside was deafening. Even if I wanted to scream, no one would hear. After saying that, he tore off the tape. "What are you referring to?" I asked, puzzled. "Did you say something bad about Xiaoa to her?" At this point, he suddenly paused as if realizing that he had already exposed his identity. He simply stopped pretending, tore off his mask, and shouted at me, Did you say something bad about me to her?" The sharp knife pressed against my skin, and the nightmare of being stabbed to death in my previous life suddenly rushed back. I could hardly breathe, my eyes red, shaking my head desperately. Then why did she suddenly distance herself from me lately? "You're the only one who keeps staring at me. Tell me, did you find out something and tell her?" In a flash of inspiration, I thought of a countermeasure. I couldn't possibly say anything bad about Baiji to you, because the boy I like is interested in her. If she ends up with you, then I can be with that boy. You can check it out. Everything I'm saying is true. That boy's name is Song Yong Kong. He's my childhood friend, and I've liked him for many years. I was terrified he wouldn't believe me. So, I desperately tried to explain in these words. He gradually calmed down. "I know Song Yong Kong," he murmured. "He was her favorite person. So you should understand me. We're on the same side. If Song Yong Kong and I get together, you can be with Baiji." Right. After the immense panic, I became surprisingly calm, trying to persuade him bit by bit. "You should let me go now, and then we can work together to break them apart." This sentence seemed to hit a nerve with Xiaoa. He suddenly stood up and ran outside, but he didn't let go of me. I froze for 2 seconds, trying to break free from the ropes binding my hands and feet. Afraid that he hadn't gone far, I didn't dare to shout or scream. But the rope was tied in a very peculiar way, and no matter how hard I struggled, I couldn't break free. Just then, someone touched me from behind. I was startled and turned to see the person's face. It was Jiang Shua. In an instant, the heart that had been hanging in suspense suddenly settled, as if life had found its home, and my eyes unexpectedly felt a bit warm. "How did you find this place?" "Well, talk about it later," he said, lowering his head to help me untie the ropes. And just then, footsteps sounded from outside once again. Jiang Shu and I exchanged a glance, then hit on the inner side of the door frame in front of me. I instantly understood his intention. When Xiaoa walked over, I would pounce on him directly from behind. But this time, Xiaoa stood outside the door, hesitating to come in. Did he discover something? Just as my mind was racing, he spoke up. "I'm sorry, but I can't let you go. If only I had talked to you properly before tying you up, then we could have been partners in the same alliance. But now, I've already kidnapped you, and you know my secret. You might even report me to the police once you get out. So I can't let you go." As he spoke, he gripped the sharp knife in his hand and walked toward me step by step. I stared at him in terror, shaking my head desperately, trying to capture all of his attention. Just as he stepped through the doorframe, Jiang Shua lunged from behind, pinning him firmly to the ground with his size advantage. Jiang Shua pinned Xiaoa beneath him, trying to snatch his knife. Just then, Xiaoa struggled violently. "Watch out," I shouted. The sharp knife grazed Jiang Shua's hand and slid 10 meters away. Xiaoa took advantage of his pain, broke free from the restraints, and ran away. Jiang Shuna cursed under his breath, ignoring his bleeding hand, picked up the sharp knife, and cut the ropes that bound me. I tore off a piece of clothing to bandage his wound, then left the place with him and called the police. Now, even if there was no evidence for the previous assault case, Xiaoa would still be arrested by the police for kidnapping me. Stepping out of the unfinished building, I asked, "How did you find this place?" "You said 10 minutes, but I waited 15. I went to look for you and found your phone on the way. I knew you might have been kidnapped. And the perpetrator was most likely Xiaoa. He doesn't have a house nearby or any means of transportation. To kidnap an adult, the only option would be to drag them to a nearby unfinished building. So, I came here to check. Meticulous and logical. No wonder he's fit to be a police captain. Xiaoa escaped. Will he hurt anyone else? I already contacted the police before I came. He's probably been arrested by now. However, when we went to the nearest campus clinic to bandage our wounds, we heard that someone was about to jump from a building. We exchanged a glance and hurried over. The area around the teaching building was already crowded with students. I looked up and saw that the person standing on the rooftop was none other than Xiaoa. He was at the end of his rope. So it's understandable that he thought of jumping off a building as a solution. But he was dragging along a trembling person. I took a closer look and realized it was Bai Jiruan. Xiaoa kept shouting something, and upon listening carefully, it seemed he was urging Bai Jiruan to join him in a suicide pact. The police arrived shortly after, accompanied by Song Yong Kong. After I explained the situation to the police, they began discussing strategies. One team approached from the front to stabilize the perpetrator's emotions, while another team worked with firefighters to find an opportunity to rescue the hostage from the rear. Xiaoa seemed to sense the police's intentions. As they gradually closed in, he pulled out a knife and pressed it against Baiji's neck. No one had expected him to have another knife. The plan had to be changed at the last minute. Call Song Yong Kong over, Xiaoa shouted. There was no other choice. The police had to call Song Yong Kong to cooperate in the negotiation. However, the latter was clearly unwilling and kept a very safe distance. Song Yong Kong, Xiaoa spoke up. Don't you love her very much? I'll give you a chance now. Come over and be my hostage, and I'll let her go. Yong Kong, save me. Ji kept crying, but Say Yong Kong acted as if he hadn't heard, his face full of fear of death. Hesitating to move, the knife pressed against Baiji's neck dug in a little deeper, already drawing a trace of blood. Yet, Song Yong Kong still refused to act. The crowd downstairs could no longer stand it. Aren't you a police academy student? How can you lack this much courage? Your girlfriend is in danger, and as her boyfriend, you're just going to stand there and watch. The police signaled for the crowd to quiet down. Everyone still felt indignant inside. Xiaoa had clearly lost all patience. He pulled Bai Jian, slowly moving closer to Song Yong Kong. The police signaled Song Yong Kong to first calm Xiaoa down, but Bai Jian had clearly reached her limit. She wept bitterly. Yong Kong, don't you love me? Why are you turning a blind eye to my life and death? Why won't you even say a single word to comfort me? Song Yong Kong remained silent. At that very moment, something no one expected happened. Bai Jiruan suddenly broke free from Xiaoa and jumped off the rooftop. Seeing the goddess fall from the building, Xiaoa went mad, grabbed a sharp knife, and charged toward Song Yong Kong with a dull thud. Screams erupted one after another. Jiang Xia covered my eyes, blocked by debris. Baiji did not die, but the fall from a height injured her spinal cord, leaving her to spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. Song Yong Kong, on the other hand, was stabbed multiple times, each wound fatal, and ultimately did not survive. Upon learning of his death, I felt an unreal sense of disbelief. In my past life, when I saw him cheat, I wished for his immediate death. But now that it has truly happened, there is no sense of the imagined pleasure. Xiaoa faces the death penalty for multiple charges, including robbery, murder, and kidnapping. The wound on Jiang Xia's hand is almost healed, and I accompanied him to the hospital to have the stitches removed while waiting in the lobby. Sunlight slanted in through the window, casting a glow on his profile. For a moment, it felt as if I had returned to a past life, chatting with him in the hospital back then. I never imagined that missing out on this man before me would become the greatest regret of my life. So I instinctively spoke up. Jiang Shu and Ya, He turned his head to look, his face illuminated by the sunlight overlapping with the memory. Do you remember what I said to you when we first met? He fell silent just as I was about to repeat it. He suddenly spoke up. I'm here to confess to you. I laughed. Exactly. No, this isn't me repeating your words. This is what I want to say to you. He spoke slowly and deliberately. Sununyan, I'm here to confess to you. I suddenly couldn't utter a single word, my cheeks burning with an astonishing heat. This man, always so serious and rigid, could actually say such things, just as I was at a loss. He slowly drew closer, smiled, and even his strong, resolute features softened. Do you accept my confession? I promise. He suddenly raised his hand and pulled me into his embrace, pressing close to my ear, lowering his voice. You asked me that day if I had never kissed anyone. My ears tingled and my cheeks felt so hot they were about to burst. He deliberately exhaled and said, The answer is no. So, do you want to give it a try with me? I couldn't take it anymore, and buried my face in his chest, pounding his chest muscles fiercely. He laughed and grabbed my fist. All right, I won't tease you anymore. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. After getting the stitches removed and leaving the hospital, Jiang Shu and I headed back under the setting sun. He walked beside me, gently holding me, and suddenly asked, Why did you climb over the wall into our school back, then to confess my feelings to you? So, you just happened to run into me. Yes, what a coincidence. We looked at each other and smiled, then kissed each other under the setting sun in this life. I finally got my wish after hearing this story. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. I look forward to hearing your voice.